artisan extraordinaire, author, actress, playwright, community advocate, lived life all over the place. And she was on faculty for, I went to college, Wake Forest University, for about 30 plus years as a Reynolds professor, which is basically a lifetime appointment. I was fortunate to be invited to attend the memorial service that was done at Wake Forest University, Wake Chapel. But what was funny, when I got the email confirmation, it had the name Joseph instead of Andrew, so I thought it was a bad joke. Like, how do you go from Andrew to Joseph? Right. And me being the youngest in the family, I know my parents are gonna kick me in the shin when I tell this part. I was asking if mom and dad had something they need to tell me, like, do I have another sibling or two? Kinfolk. You know how family just randomly pop up.
Right.
And after they threw some rocks at me, they're like, you have lost your mind. But did some research, and there actually is, way down the line, a relative by the name of Joseph. So the book is a poetic retelling of our conversation, and it was centered on the energy of love. So we talked about love through the lens of family relationships, community relationships, people in your life, people out of your life. But what we did is the beginning of each chapter is a portion of the conversation. So it's almost like a preview. So when people get into the poem, they can draw better connections, because sometimes with poetry, it's creative, but sometimes the writer goes in a direction that the reader can't always follow. So by minimizing that, by giving the reader context, now when they read the poem, it makes more sense and they can draw connections. So that's the very first book that I did. The second book is the one immediately to your right, 9 Stories of Faith, which all my books are my favorite, but this one is probably my favorite one, because it's under the mindset of all of us are dealing with something, but some people deal with something each and every day. So the people I interviewed opened up about living with physical health challenges, mental health challenges, life after incarceration, even life before getting married. But what they did is they opened up through the lens of their faith, and the people I interviewed are of Christianity, Hinduism, and Islamic background. Best practices they use in health and wellness, how they utilize their support network, and how they've changed their way of thinking, that they live positive and powerful lives. And all of us are going to struggle with something at some point. And it doesn't mean you have to deal with things exactly the way that the people I interviewed did, but it gives you an idea, like, instead of like blowing up a city block, it's like you can sit down and slow down the moving parts. And another thing, in addition to talking about how people work through adversity, is having a better talk within the faith community, because far too often there's misconceptions across the board. And what I did for 9 Stories of Faith, in the whatever the prologue, or whatever you want to call it, I referenced the Islamic greeting, Wassalamu alaikum, alaikum assalam, which is peace unto you and peace back. Now, it doesn't mean you have to convert, but when you think about it in church, when you do expressions of passing the friendship or passing the peace, you're kind of doing the same type of thing. You're acknowledging someone's humanity, existence, and you're bidding them peace and you're bidding them well. So now if we have better conversations across the faith community, where are there areas of overlap? And now that there's areas of overlap, how can we work within these areas of overlap to better advocate for, let's say, community change that we're looking for, or things along those lines? You're building your ally base. So that book, all the books to me are important, but that one really has a special importance. And I go to it at times when I'm getting ready to throw rocks or fill a water balloon and throw it out the window, as somebody's like, let me take a piece of my own advice and pause and pump my brakes.